Hi, and welcome to the Chirps.
Today we will be researching Arthur Miller.
I'm Luke Sellers.
And I'm Emily Zucker.
Let's get started. Alright, we're going to get started here, and we're just going to jump into our first segment. EJ, I've got one question for you, real quick. It's, who is Arthur Miller?
He is an American playwright, very well-renowned American playwright. He revolutionized American plays because he talked about taboo topics and themes.
He sure did. He did talk about those taboo topics and themes, taking great, amazing stories and just making them so personal.
Yes.
And making them well known amongst the middle class and the, what is that word? Platone?
The moral
plight?
Plight. The moral plight.
The moral plight.
They said he really focused on figuring out and dissecting the moral plight of the average American white man, because everyone overlooks them and thinks that, you know, the poor people, they have stories, the rich people, they have stories, but no one focuses on your average Joe, which is a character that he has.
It's really kind of funny.
Yeah, it is.
It's goofy.
Get it? Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. So moving on to that one. So when we say who is Arthur Miller, what I'm really asking is, like, where did he come from? What are his backgrounds, and why did he write the plays that he has written?
Well, he was born in 1950.
Okay.
Not 1950, 1915.
1950? He's so young.
No, 1915. 1915. And then he died in 2005, which isn't far behind when we were born, really. And then he had a lot of Jewish background, which obviously Jewish people have a hard time. He grew up in New York City.
So, okay.
He was born in New York City. He grew up there. But his family did move. They moved to, I wrote it down. Hold on. They moved to Brooklyn whenever things started to get hard, because his family's fortune was completely lost during the Great Depression, and they had to figure out how to live on basically nothing, which is hard and really brought him up in a way of wanting to understand why people were like, he wanted people to understand him, because he was the average Joe that struggled with money and that no one ever talks about. And so he wanted to really show himself and some of his characters, I think.
Right, when we're, like, he wanted to shed light on the, like, because obviously the rich lost all their fortunes and all this, and the poor were completely devastated. But it was everybody who was coming to that middle class that was probably the most affected, because those middle class became those poor people. And then he wrote those, I mean, it's just evident in all his work.
I mean, he did start to involve himself in politics as he grew up. He did study at the University of Michigan. He did. So he moved to Michigan and he studied there. I don't exactly know. I think he studied literature and writing. For some people, I didn't really look into that too much, but he did study there, and he moved back to New York. Obviously, because he's writing plays that want to be on Broadway. New York's the place to go. He was married 3 times. Guy
got around. He got on the block, and there was one particular. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Okay, anyway, sorry.
Who was that one in particular?
That one particular was Marilyn Monroe.
They had a very short and very rocky marriage, because he went through a lot. This guy, he's not just your average playwright. He had a very tough life.
I'm sure he did. He's just like the rest of us. And which is crazy, because it's like somebody that world-renowned is like, people all over the world know his plays and have done his plays, and it's like he was literally just an average Joe like the rest of us. Just happened to fall into these great, I mean, he did have a God-given talent of writing these beautiful plays that were so different at the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he just did. They were so... in a time where Shakespeare was the most dramatic thing there was. And it was these great stories about these kings and these queens who fell from on high.
Yep.
But then he makes it to where it's these great stories about
and people
these
who
average
aren't
Joes
can relate.
And can relate. And they can see, and they've witnessed these things in their lives, and they've seen people in their life fall from these great mountains that they had them on, and understanding that none of us are perfect and we're all going to fall from those mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote a lot of important plays, 3 of which were arguably the most well-known and great plays. I'm just going to list them because there's one in particular that got him in some serious trouble.
Oh, obviously.
So we had his first Broadway hit, which was one of Luke's favorites.
My sons.
All your sons.
They were all my sons.
And then he wrote The Death of a Salesman, which is very, very similar to his first Broadway hit. And then the one who got him in trouble by the government, The Crucible. And everyone just thinks of it as this story about, like the Salem witch trials, but
there's some deeper meaning behind it.
A lot of deeper meaning.
There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of symbolism in his plays. Well, his plays are symbolism.
He wrote The Crucible as an allegory for the Red Scare.
Yeah.
Like the Russians and
all that.
All that jazz.
Speaking of communism, so he was a part of that Red Scare.
Well, he wasn't ever labeled as a communist, but he did get involved. He did get involved. He went to communist meetings. Not because he was one. Because he wanted to kind of get some insight for his plays, because, obviously The Crucible is just hidden meaning is anti-communism. Right. He's an anti-communist, but since he went to those meetings, he knew what the other perspective of communism was, so he predicted wrong. Yeah, and he had some insight, and he had some connections to communist leftists, which got him in trouble with the government. The government was like, "We're putting you on trial," and then he was like, "Okay, I'll tell you my side of the story," and they were like, "Tell us the names of the people." He was like, I can't do that. It's unfair.
Which
and they're gonna come after me. Bad move. He got in trouble with the government, but the commies loved him. Not only did he get charged with contempt of court, he got charged with contempt of Congress, which resulted in him being fined and charged in May of 1957. And then he was also put on suspension of imprisonment. So he did a lot of stuff outside of jail. He was basically on house arrest. He went to prison for a very short time, I believe. But it was reversed because there's this organization called the House of Un-American Activities. Yeah. And it was a committee of the House of Representatives that basically went in and investigated people to see if they were communists, because this was at the time of the Cold War. And they wanted to make sure that communism wasn't entering America, and eventually got reversed because of 2 other plays which revolutionized basically his whole life. And one was called The Ride Down Mount Morgan, and the other one was called The Last Yankee, which we'll get into later. But honestly, I think that is all for Arthur Miller. That is who he is. Those are all my plays. He is now, after getting that thing removed, and he really shined his light. He shined his light. He's a shining light, and
He's a beacon for those who are in the middle class.
And he revolutionized theater, and now we are here talking about him, and about his impact on the world. Right. A lot of people misunderstand it because they look at Marilyn Monroe's story, and they're like, "Well, he was a horrible husband." Well, no, he wasn't. He was going through a literal trial, and Marilyn Monroe was probably sleeping with Kennedy at the time. Which I shouldn't say that. I mean, she probably wasn't, but I mean. But here's the deal: it's like she didn't understand. Which made for a very short marriage. Right. Well, here's the deal: is because Marilyn Monroe is just. I mean, you say Marilyn Monroe, and 90% of people are gonna go, "Oh, I know her." Yeah. They might have never seen any picture that she was in, but it's like, "Oh, I know that name." You know Marilyn Monroe. Yeah. Because she was just
she was probably at that time. I mean, it was
one of the
just
most famous actresses. In
Yeah.
the world.
yeah, just period, famous actress in the world, and she was probably just on this high like Hollywood stuff, and she didn't understand
The average
the
Joe.
average Joe,
The
which
average
was
Joe,
Arthur
because
Miller.
she is one of the
She
rich
was
people.
She was the rich person with the tragic story, but that's a conversation for a different time. Now, talking about average Joes.
Let's get into his plays, and we'll cut to that segment.
All right, let's jump into this next segment. So,
Plays.
Let's talk about the plays. So,
So
all my plays. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
all your plays. We're gonna talk about
all my plays.
the Crucible and then the Ride Down Mount Morgan and the Last Yankee first, so we can actually get to the point of talking about the two plays that we came here to talk about.
Right.
The Crucible, honestly, I haven't researched a bunch about because it's very confusing
It's complex.
to
It's
understand.
deep.
It has a lot of meaning to it.
Well,
It's about anti-communism. The main reason he wrote it was to explain how baseless rumors can erode society very, very quickly. And also about the fact that, like the whole story, not like anything behind it, but just the story in general is that Puritans' very restrictive theology really just basically led to the Salem witch trials.
okay. Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
what he believed when he wrote The Crucible. There's a lot more behind it. It's an allegory for the Red Scare, the Russians. I don't want to get into the story too much just because I can't finish it. I don't.
Right. I think a lot of times what I've heard from people is like you obviously at our school we read the Crucible.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times it gets misinterpreted into something different.
Yeah.
Because it's like it can be very like, oh my gosh, blah blah blah, such and such. But you really gotta read deeper into the text. Like you gotta use all the text to pull out what he's really trying. You gotta use all my text. You have to use all the text to really pull out what Arthur really tried to say. In any of his plays.
He's very tedious with what he writes, and everything is very meaningful. Every word that is said.
Every word that he said, like you even notice it, and it really takes like a good actor to do it. Like obviously, being you act, but I mean like, and it's not that we're not good actors.
How about you?
Oh, okay.
I'm joking. I'm joking. All jokes.
I'm in drama club. I'm just kidding. So you really have to it takes its toll. Like I feel like if you're an actor having to do that, you gotta pull everything out of you. But to do that would be just so fun.
I mean, we saw the All My Sons pro shot, and at the end when they were doing bows, they weren't really smiling much. Because they just had come out of such a dark state of acting,
literally
and getting into it.
So many emotions.
So many emotions. But we have two other plays.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into because we can finally get into All My Sons, which Luke is dying to talk about. Okay, so the Ride Down Mount Morgan is about. It's not a comedy as much as you would think it's a comedy because it's about this guy who marries two people, two women. And he goes down Mount Morgan, which is a very icy road because it's in the middle of winter.
Right.
And he ends up getting in a car crash that is almost fatal. And when you get to the hospital, they call your emergency contacts. Well, he has two emergency contacts. They both get called and they both meet each other.
So it's a typical. Which
some people can interpret some of it as a comedy, but Arthur Miller likes to think of it as a tragedy, which both of these plays are a comedy about a tragedy, is what he says in his own words. No, the Ride Down Mount Morgan and The Last Yankee are these two plays. Whenever he wrote The Crucible, he obviously went into those dark times and he kind of shut down as an actor, a writer, and he wrote these two plays and it got him out of the jeopardy that he was in.
Yeah.
And The Last Yankee is another comedy about a tragedy. It can be seen as both a comedy, but the actual story itself is very tragic. It takes place in New England in a mental hospital.
Yankees? Yankees? What was it?
Well, Yankee, the last Yankee.
Oh.
It's because New England, Yankee, New York.
New England, New York.
It features two contrasting men, a carpenter and then a very successful business owner.
Okay.
Both of their women, not women, yeah, both of their
Both
women.
of
Both of their women.
Both of their women.
Both of their wives have been put in an institution for depression.
Real.
And it shows themes of the American dream, the conflict of class, and the differentiating of perceptions of what happiness and fulfillment really is in life, because both of them have different ways of viewing it. Obviously, they're two different people, and their wives are caused such despair because their husbands have different values.
Well,
than them.
I think what we see nowadays is like, obviously there's still a separation between middle class and the wealthy or the rich. But I think, like, just socially wise, this has always been an American thing. But back in the 40s and the 50s, or back in the 40s and the 30s and the 20s back then, it's like everybody there was more of a separation than that, because you still have that heritage of aristocrats who you know, in England and all that and stuff, and the lords and the ladies, and you see that because you just like there was a bigger separation from when Arthur Miller was in his like younger days. It was like there were the rich. If you were rich, you had servants, you had butlers, you had all this. And then if you were middle class, or if you were poor, but if you were middle class, you just lived life. I mean, you could afford maybe a new car every 6 years or like, and maybe so it just isn't. It wasn't the same as it is now when we look at the middle class and the rich. It's still, there's still that aristocratic feeling, but you have a little bit of a different time because the times are just more modern. Obviously, they're modern time because we're living in modern times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right. I agree. That last statement was kind of like a statement, like you might have added something back onto it. But yeah, obviously women have come a long way. In the last Yankee, it says that they were institutionalized. There you go. For depression.
Right.
Whereas nowadays,
modernly,
depression can be fixed with
a couple pills.
And also therapy, and women aren't seen as these crazy
have a shrink
for just mental illnesses.
Well,
but really,
women, am I right?
Speaking of women with mental illnesses, let's get into the two plays that we both want to talk about. Kate, in your play, I believe, has some craziness.
Let's break this down.
Tell me what All My Sons is about.
Okay, so I'm gonna break it down for you. I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna get
break it down.
So basically, the basic. Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah, I am.
So basically, what All My Sons is about is a little synopsis. So you have. It takes place in this middle class family. Yeah. The upper middle class. I mean, he's pretty well off, but he's not super duper rich. They live in the suburbs, and it takes the time period is just right after World War II. Yeah. World War II had just ended, so like it's probably like 49 to 50. So that prime area of like things are looking up for America. Like things are like, this is before we see the big suburban boom, and we see all these things are about to happen, and like where we get pop culture from, But we're seeing this. So what? So there's Joe Keller, who is the dad, who is the tragic hero of the story. And then you have Kate, who is the crazy woman, and then you have Chris, who is one of their sons, and then you have Larry, who was killed in war. So they thought. So you have this whole thing. of you get to the story, and Kate is in denial that Larry's actually dead because.
Well, there's a person that knows about that. Who's that character?
Well, so Anne,
Yeah.
who is Chris's. Okay, so Anne is Larry's sweetheart, and they were supposed to get married after he came back from the war. But Anne comes into town because she'd been living in New York for the past 3 years
With her
mother,
with her
mother and her brother.
Yeah.
So she had been living up there. They had moved up there. So she comes back into town, and everybody's like, "Well, why is Anne in town?" And all this is happening. And while this is happening, their next door neighbor Frank is trying to figure out this horoscope. So a horoscope is like, he won't die on this favorable day. Kate's trying to figure out, like, he's not dead.
Any possible way
that Kate's not dead. So then you go farther down the storyline. Chris and Anne, they're really in love with each other, and they have been for a long time. And Anne knows the truth about Larry. So Larry. So what is the truth? So we go farther down, and we start to see this falling of Joe. So Joe, a little context behind Joe is he was put in jail because he was accused of murdering 22 pilots.
Wow, that's a big.
Yeah, he was accused of murdering 22 pilots. And
21 pilots?
21 pilots. I think it was 21 pilots
Actually,
I don't remember the exact number that Arther Miller uses.
21 pilots.
But it'd be funny.
All my friends are.
Okay, we're done with that. So anywho, him and his business partner go to jail. Well, his business partner is in jail longer than Joe is because Joe is proven not guilty. So innocent.
Is there any relation to the business partner to any other characters?
So yes, so the business partner is Anne and George's dad. And so they were really close friends, but the whole time Joe plays this kind of a bulldog. Mm-hmm. He plays this big, strong character of a man who is basically like, what was his name? What is their dad's name?
The one that's in jail?
Yeah.
I don't actually remember them mentioning.
They
mentioned it, but it was very briefly talked over. I just kind of always knew him as
the man in jail. His father, Anne's father.
Because most times Anne and George are referring to him, and they just called him dad
or dad
father. So.
But so Joe depicts him, tells his story about it. It is like, when he gets out of jail, I want him to come here, and I want him to give him an opportunity.
Yeah.
So we see this like good, nice character about Joe, and the way Arther Miller designs it is he makes Joe out to be this great character at first, and then he slowly starts to crumble and progressively fall apart. So we're seeing it, and then we start to hear this. Then George comes in the picture, which is Anne's brother.
Okay.
So more and more starts to happen, and then because George is on this thing like he framed our father for these things.
Well, that's bad.
And that's bad. And you should be back in jail for that. And then this whole thing, and then Kate here's a crazy. This is actually a great thing that Arther Miller does to prove that every word is meticulous. Every word is meticulous. So you'd think that. So it's mentioned way earlier in the thing that the reason why the cracked heads that they sent out of their factory that Joe ran and Joe sent them out, but their father, George and Anne's father was like, I don't want to do this, but Joe couldn't make the decision because he was sick. And we see this, and we kind of see that more. You're like, oh, okay, all right, that makes sense. That makes enough sense. And then Kate just says this one little thing. Oh, well, you've never been sick a day in your life. While George was there, and things were looking up, and George was kind of easy back in, and then the whole plot just changes, and it's just on one word. It's just on one word. You've never been sick a day in your life. And then he goes, well, that one time during the war. And then that's where we start to see the tragic hero fall. So then more stuff is revealed throughout it. we find out that Larry couldn't live with the news of his father in jail, his father killing these pilots who were innocent sons.
Yeah.
And that's where All My Sons came from.
Yeah.
Because Kate then says, well, if Larry's dead, then your father killed him.
Because it was believed that Larry was on that plane.
Was drove one of those planes, but he didn't.
He didn't.
But in reality, Joe did kill his own son. So you see Joe.
How did he kill his own son?
So because his son couldn't live with the fact that his dad was so lustful after money and wanting just to make money in the war, and that's what happened. The men who couldn't go to war, made their money during the war. That's where they became rich, and you want to keep your fortune.
Yeah.
And when you're in that middle class and you lived in that middle class for all your life, you want to keep the fortune. But you see this great tragedy fall because of Joe. And it's really, truly,
I bet Chris was devastated with all of this happening.
Chris is devastated and he has to leave town.
And then, he leaves town, and Anne's going to be upset.
Then Anne leaves town, and then afterwards, it's just a whole thing. Probably in this story.
Well, Kate was in denial that Larry was
dead. So Kate was in denial, yeah.
So what happened when she found out that he really was dead?
So when Kate finds out that he's actually dead, she spirals, and she doesn't want Chris to know. But Chris and Joe the entire time were like, he's dead. Larry, you gotta let go. Larry's dead, but Kate won't let go. And then you see kind of a role switch where the emotional stableness comes from Kate then.
Crazy woman, not so crazy now.
Crazy woman, not so crazy then. He's just crazy. It's just a full-on thick plot, and I could spend hours and hours talking about it. But we don't have hours and hours. But it's the very thick plot, and.
Well, how does it end?
I don't want to give that away.
Okay, we won't give that away.
We want to give that away because you really need to watch it. If you don't come from this and you don't watch All My Sons, then who even are you? You're not even a cultural
I will
person.
spoil Death of a Salesman for you.
You can spoil Death of a Salesman as much as you want for me.
Because we have
limited time.
I really only have a couple notes of Death. I figured out what Death of a Salesman was today, actually. We researched about it, and I'm going to watch it soon. Now learning about Arthur Miller, because we were introduced with All My Sons to Arthur Miller,
right? And
now we're opening up a whole thing about him. But Death of a Salesman is very similar to All My Sons in the sense of a tragic hero, just a middle class white man, father of 2 kids, 2 sons, and a wife who, instead of being seen as crazy, is almost seen as crazy for how stable she is.
Right.
So the main character that we see here is the father. His name's Willie. He has 2 sons named Biff and Happy. Yeah. Silly Willie. He has 2 sons, Biff and Happy, and his wife's name is Linda. And they go through just daily life. So Willie is a salesman, and he's not getting a lot of sales, and it's bringing a lot of hardship on his family financially. Biff is also struggling financially. He doesn't know what he's going to do for his career. Neither does Happy, because Happy's kind of always dependent on his dad.
Yeah.
Obviously, in this time, it wasn't really normal that the wife of kids would go out and work. They would stay home and take care of the kids.
For that time. Especially in the middle class.
Especially in the middle class, they were supposed to, sit around and take care of the kids and make them a sandwich. But so we go through this day to day, and he comes home. All of this play happens within a 24-hour period. And so he gets home from not making that much sales, and Biff's complaining, Happy's complaining, and on his way home, he almost gets into a bunch of crashes, on purpose. He's very upset, very delusional and emotional, and his wife tells his kids, hey, y'all need to repair the relationship with your father or else he's gonna die. Like, his life is in your hands. And that really sets the tone of the play, like, the way that an average Joe can have such an impact on someone's life. And they devised this great plan to make a family fortune, which is all the rage, right? Money, money, money. And Biff is gonna go see this high-end dude, and Willie's gonna go to his work, get a higher job, and so they both go to these meetings. Biff's does not go well. Willie gets fired, which is even worse than the state that they were in financially. Now they're making no money.
Making no money.
And Happy's obviously devastated about this because Happy is kind of emotionally dead. All he wants is money. Like, he doesn't really want. All he wants is success. Like, he doesn't really care about his family. All he wants is blah, right? And so Willie takes his kids out to dinner to try to talk them, be like, it's gonna be okay. And they have a fight about it. And, you know, through all this delusion, Willie goes home and he has his dead brother, Ben, who was a very successful businessman. He went to Africa and Alaska. He had like all these great things going for him. And he died, right? And so Willie has this delusional conversation with Ben. And Ben's like, hey, you have that life insurance policy. Well, this sparks a whole thing in his head. Obviously, he's hallucinating his brother. Nonetheless, he's now thinking about, oh, if I die, my family will have money. So Biff comes up to his dad and is like, I'm so sorry, I have failed you as a son. I'm leaving the family. Well, this just kind of sets everything off of the tragic hero, and Willie's like, I need to save my family. So he takes the car, drives off, and much can be implied there. All I will say is, for educational purposes, he is no longer with us, and the life insurance policy does go through, and the family gets money. Biff has a changing character and realizes that money is not everything, and that his father had the wrong dreams, whereas Happy, still kind of emotionally dead, was like, yes, this is the perfect thing we needed to build our fortune. And Linda, who has been with, they got in a fight because, forgot to mention this, they got in a fight because his dad had an affair. And so Linda, who has stuck by him through everything, was like, you know, this is what he would have wanted. She took the money and got them out of debt and got the money going, paid off everything. And he saved his family, technically. But in order to do that, he died.
He had to kill himself.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories in Greek mythology like that, which we don't have to get into because we don't have time.
We don't have time for that. So that being said, on that note,
that is Arthur Miller.
That is an Arthur Miller synopsis. I mean, you can talk about Arthur Miller for ages and ages, as we probably just did.
Yeah.
That being said,
this is the Chirps.
That's it. This is the Chirps.
We are the Chirps.
We're chirpers. If you can't tell that, we
just keep chirping.
Talk.
These are our
birds.
Our birds. And
hey,
we'll see you on the next podcast.
Friend, make your day awesome.